All right, let's go. We have a fun topic we're going to tack on today that I like to talk about called leading your wife back to the marriage. A lot of you just flat out, right? You're in this position, you're in this group because you really don't know what to do. You're talking to your pastor, you're talking to your buddies, you're talking to your coworkers, you're talking to your uncle, you're talking to your dad, you're talking to everybody around you, and you're in a massive amount of pain and you're just like, how do I get her back? How do I stop all the pain, stop all the confusion? Maybe you're not even sure if you want her back, but like you just want things to go back to normal. Um, Over the summer, my kids, two of my oldest or middle kids, I guess, are 12-year-olds. What we do every summer is my wife and I actually take them through a sort of movie journey. So we choose a movie series. I think a couple of years ago we did Indiana Jones, we've done Star Wars, and this year we did Lord of the Rings. And we just finished it up over Sunday, on Sunday. And one of the most, the powerful parts towards the end of the movie, and sorry, it's a, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, because let's be honest, it's 20 something years old. So hopefully you've seen it by now. But, the main character photo, if you will, is literally trying to take this ring of power and throw it into the fires of Mordor. And so he's on this journey. He's been on this journey for a while, years probably or months. I don't know in the book how long it's been, but essentially he's on this journey and he's so tired and he's so exhausted. And him and his counterpart that's with him, they're dreaming about, thinking about going back to the Shire, and the Shire was like their home. It was their safe, their refuge. And in the Shire, everything was good. There was peace. Everybody loved each other. There weren't any major problems. And because that was the way they lived, like they thought that was like their heaven. And in that moment, they're like right at the cusp of putting this ring in the thing, but they're just dog tired, and they had nothing left to give. I know that many of you here are in that place. Maybe you've given so much. Maybe you've been tired and exhausted, and you just don't know how much more you can give. And so you start to dream and fantasize about going back to the Shire, about going back to what it was like when we were on vacation and everything was good, what it was like when we were having good sex, and what it was like when it was just me, her, and the kids, and it was Christmas time, sitting around opening packages, and everything was fine in the world. Um, but the truth is when he was at the fire pits of Mordor, he couldn't go back to the Shire until he burned that thing, until he let go of the thing he was holding onto. And the desire in you to go back to perfection, to go back to your perfect identity and like your perfect scenario is a real one. And it's okay that you have that. But the problem is when a guy doesn't actually live in reality and he lives in a fantasy and he lives from this place of just dreaming and fantasizing. I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back. And even when they were sitting there on the cusp of the mountain, they knew that even when they go back to the Shire, it'll never be the same. In fact, they do make they do burn the ring. He lets go of it, and they do go back to the Shire. But there's this change in Frodo. There's this change in him where it's like it will never be the same. And guys, I'm here to tell you, it will never be the same. Even if your wife comes back to the marriage, even if you guys are able to solve all these problems, it will never be the same. And it doesn't mean that it can't be great. In fact, I've seen a lot of marriages get reconciled and it becomes fantastic. It becomes incredible. But that's the point, is it will never be the same. And that's a good thing. So the first thing we have to do before we start leading our wives back to a marriage is let go of the false fallacy of what that marriage really was. To let go of the fantasy that you have in your mind that if I could just get back to 2021 or 2018, if I could just get back to that time, that it'll all be good. No, it won't, because that's not true. I've done that so many times in my life. Like we're just in different seasons. And it's like, man, I missed that season. I miss eighth grade when I was like killing it as a pitcher and like I was the popular kid in school and all this stuff. And it's like, we want to go back to that because that's where our heart lies. That's where our refuge lies, where everything in the world was safe. And the fact is as men, we can't live in the past. We can't live in the past, and we can't live so far in the future that we forget that there is a reality in front of us today. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he said to me that like the only way I can live in the present is by basically trying to ignore what's going on. And I'm like, dude, that's sad. That's sad because that basically means that your only ability to function as a man right now is to squash your actual heart, to kill your heart. And so many of us as young men, as boys, growing up, we were told crying is for babies, crying is for girls, stop being a pussy, stop being a little bitch, all that stuff. And so what do? We squash it. We kill our hearts. And you can't lead someone if you can't lead yourself. One of the number one things I see in a guy that gets on the phone with me, he's wanting to talk about what's going on, is he basically comes to a place where every time his wife gets upset, every time his wife has emotions, he either tries to fix it or he tries to shut it down. And what I found was that the reason this happens is because most men don't have a grid for dealing with her emotions. They don't have a grid for dealing with her shit, her pain that she's going through, because they don't have a grid for dealing with their own shit. They don't have a grid for dealing with their own pain and their own emotions. And instead of actually being vulnerable with other men, they keep it enclosed. They cry in their truck. They go to drugs, alcohol, whatever else they fucking do as an outlet, instead of actually processing what they are feeling, because they're told they're weak if they do that. They're told they're not real men if they do that. No, I'm here to tell you, you're a real man when you can be really fucking honest about what you actually feel. Emotions and feelings are two separate things. The emotion is the outward thing. It's the anger, it's the sadness, it's all that. But we got to get lower to the actual feeling. What's underneath that? Any 2-year-old can throw a temper tantrum. One of my favorite movies, Remember the Titans. They were in that place where it was the black kids and the white kids, and they ended up getting this massive fight at training camp. And he's like, any 2-year-old can throw a temper tantrum and fight. But being a football player is about harnessing that anger, harnessing that energy, and using it on the field. Guys, you're wasting your fucking energy. You're wasting your energy and your anger. You're wasting it on the wrong things. Instead of just being mad at the situation, being mad at your life, being mad at what you're going through, start to internalize not being angry at yourself, but use it as motivation to change who you've become. Because women aren't leaving who you used to be, they're leaving who you've become. Right? If you become a man who is disconnected from himself emotionally, who doesn't actually engage with his wife, who doesn't really show her the love that she needs, that's where they start to kind of go, man, why am I here? If I'm just being treated as his mom, why am I here? The two dynamics I see most of the time, 98% of the time, the father-daughter dynamic, where you're a man who's married to basically a little girl who hasn't grown up, and you take care of her, you provide for her, you keep her safe. That's the father-daughter dynamic. The other one is I see the mommy and the little boy. And that is where it's a little boy who is emasculated as a child, who doesn't grow into a real fucking man. He marries a woman who mommies him and is basically like another teenager waiting for him to grow the fuck up. And that is the common thing I see in men. And I've been doing this for 5+ years. I've talked to thousands of men. This isn't some like fucking thing I just made up someday. This is real, actual things that I've seen go on. And some of you are shaking your heads because you know this is fucking true. And how you showed up in your marriage is everything. So look, at the end of the day, leadership is what your wife is craving from you. Leadership is what she's craving. If you are wanting to lead your wife back, you must 100% be able to lead her. Leadership by John Maxwell, he says the definition is leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's one of my favorite quotes. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. If you can't influence your wife, there's no way in hell you can lead her back to you. And you go, well, Mark, how do I influence my wife? Another quote he says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. See, so many guys throw out all kinds of shit at their wives, like, well, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, I'm feeling all this, and you're feeling all that. And it's like you're mansplaining shit to her, and she doesn't give a fuck because she doesn't believe you actually care about her. She doesn't believe you actually empathize with what she's experiencing. Now, I'm not saying empathize with her affair, because that's bullshit. We're not talking about that. But in terms of how she felt in your marriage and understanding and making her feel heard and understood, that is the sort of the gateway. Because empathy is a gateway towards connection. Empathy is a gateway towards connection. Marriages don't dissolve because one person decided to fuck another person. Marriages dissolve when there is a lack of emotional connection. When there is a lack of emotional connection. Communication, finances, and sex are the top three, as a lot of therapists will say, as to why people get divorced. But the reality is, if you peel back the layers of communication, sex, and finances, you will find at the root emotional connection. When men don't know how to connect with their wives, they get divorced. And here's why men can't do that, is because men are not connected to themselves. If you can't connect to you, how the fuck can you connect to her? If you can't be real and vulnerable with yourself, how in the hell can you be real and vulnerable with her? And how can she feel like she can be real and vulnerable with you if you aren't real and vulnerable with her? It's not going to happen. Why? Because every time she starts to share, you see it as nagging. Oh, she's just nagging again. She's just doing that shit again. And over time, what happens? That shit goes away. And over time, she becomes less and less caring and less like, you know what? I don't really give a fuck. I'm not going to share with him. Or he's not a safe space for me, so I'm not going to share. You're here because you want to lead her. You're here because you want to lead her, but you got to ask yourself, is how empathetic were you before all this shit went down? It's almost easy to become empathetic now because now you feel sorry for yourself. And you're like, oh my God, I realize I fucked up. I gotta show her empathy. And like now it's like basically too late in a lot of cases. Now I'm not saying you can't save your marriage, because we obviously do that. That is a program that we have. We save marriages. That's what we do. But like where you're standing right now and what you're doing has to fucking change in order for that to happen. And you have to be able to create empathy. But empathy isn't just feeling sorry for someone. That's sympathy. Empathy is feeling for someone as they're going through something. It is putting their shoes on your feet. It is coming to a place of like, wow, that must be painful. That, the way I showed up as a man clearly was not good, clearly was not healthy. The way I led our family was not good. And because of that, damn, how that must have made you feel. And like really caring. Like that is the type of empathy that she's been craving all along. And having that type of empathy is the gateway for emotional connection. In fact, I've seen it so many times where it's like, it feels like every day now. It's like some client, their wife is leaning back into the marriage. And the number one thing is they apply what we call the TSC model. And I'll talk about that in a second. But in that space part, they learn how to be empathetic in their approach. And it becomes less about telling her what they think and feel and more about experiencing what she thinks and feels so that you can lead her the way she needs to be led. At the end of the day, guys, it all starts with you. This everything right now starts with you. I see so many guys who are just fucking passive. And you're just like, I feel out of control. I feel like I'm in limbo. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. She's got control. If you haven't right now, I highly, highly recommend you check out the Gypsy Rose Blanchard. It's not a documentary, it's a fucking show that's on TLC right now. And Gypsy Rose was the girl who basically had her boyfriend kill her mom. She just got out of prison. She's kind of famous in a lot of circles with women or whatever. It's kind of a fascinating story. But they've been following her since she got out of prison over this show. And while she was in prison, she married a man named Ryan. And Ryan is basically your typical American male right now, who's soft, he's overweight, he doesn't take care of himself, he's manipulative as fuck, and he basically babies her, talks to her like she's a child the whole fucking time. And now we're in an episode where she decided that she wants out of the marriage. And this motherfucker is calling her, crying, begging, doing all the pathetic shit. And what's she doing? She's being with Ryan. She's being with the other dude. She's being with the ex guy that she wanted to get back with. And if you look at the two different guys, this is like a perfect example of what I see on a daily basis. You've got the guy who's confident. Now, look, I do not condone what she did at all. I think it's completely fucked up and completely wrong that she cheated on him and now moved with this other guy. And now she's going to have a baby with him and all this other shit while she's still married. I think, well, maybe they got divorced or whatever. But the fact is, it's a fucked up situation. But I dare you to go watch that and watch how her husband is showing up in the relationship. and watch how confident the other dude is. And his confidence and his leadership and his listening to her is what won her over. Instead of begging, like he was already out, and he reached out and wanted to start a relationship again, started being friend zoned, but he was like made his intentions known, and he was confident about it. Like, I want to be with you still. It was wrong. It was fucked up. But that confidence and that clarity of what he wanted and the directness for her was the thing that led her over the edge. And she recognized she didn't want to be with this other dude. He was soft. He was a beggar. He was a pleader. He could have saved that marriage, but he was so manipulative. He didn't know how to lead her back. He didn't know how to lead her to that place of where she could be. Guys, it all starts with you. It all starts with you making your mind up of what you want. If you are clear that this marriage is worth saving and it's worth having, and you are ready to go through the pits of fire and hell to get it, then you've got to start doing what I call the work. Last week, I think I did a teaching on the work. Go check it out. If you haven't seen it, I think there's a Facebook post on it, and you can just put one and we'll send it over to you. Okay. The work comes from you recognizing all your shit. The work doesn't come from you telling her all your shit. It comes from you looking at the hard truths about myself and what needs to change and starting to actually do the changes. I talk a lot about ownership, and most guys say, "Oh man, I own my shit, I own my shit." And I go, "What did you do?" And like, "Well, I apologize." No. Ownership is not an apology. That's bullshit. Ownership is an acknowledgement of what you did wrong, creating a new standard and living to that standard. I mean, how many times have you heard a drug addict go, "Man, I'll never do it again. I'll never do drugs again. I'll never do drugs again." Well, he thinks he's taking ownership by saying he did the drugs. But yet, dude, you keep doing the drugs. So what are you? That's so many men. I won't do it again, honey. I won't be a jerk to you again. I won't be an asshole to you. I won't put my fist through a wall again. I won't hit you again. I won't cuss you out again. I won't do that again. And you owned it, but then you go right back to doing it. You haven't owned shit until you've changed how you've shown up. That's how it works. That's true ownership. And there's a difference, because here's the thing: is I talk to so many guys, and they're all about guilt. They feel guilty for what they've done wrong. They feel guilty for not being a great husband. They feel guilty because they're allowed to work and all this stuff. And guilt leads to an acknowledgement of, "Hey, I fucked up. I worked too much and I did this." But like nothing ever changes. And because nothing ever changes, they have no ownership. And I look at it as I go, dude, you have to be convicted in your soul that this is not the man I want to be. And that conviction only comes through a bridge called ownership. The difference between guilt, feeling guilty about something, and having conviction to do something is ownership. That is the bridge. And that bridge will lead you to fucking freedom. I have a saying that the more ownership I take, the more freedom I get. The more ownership I take, the more freedom I get. It doesn't mean you own her actions, but the more ownership I can take over me and how I've led the situation, the more freedom I get. That's a challenge, because there's so many situations, there's so many things that you guys are going through, and you're like, well, she did this and she did that. And you're right, dude. You're fucking right. Your wife can be toxic. Your wife can be a bitch. Your wife can be a cheater. Like all those things are totally possible. I will never tell a man to take responsibility for her and what she's done. But I will say, how did you respond to her? I will say, how did you show up daily? I will say, did you love her the way she needs to be loved? Right? That's the thing. So this is why it starts with you guys. If we can't do that, if we can't get to a place where we make it about our own growth, we will never lead her back. Because you will sit there and you will wonder and you'll wait and you'll hope that she'll somehow turn around, and you go, "I'm working on me." I get so fucking annoyed when I hear guys say, "I'm working on me." And then I say to, "Well, what are you doing?" And they're like, "Well, I'm reading books, I'm going to the gym, I'm just like, you're doing the basic shit. Like, dude, that's basic. That's shit you should have already been doing 5 years ago. That's not working on you. Working on you is actually challenging you to be a better fucking man. Great. Going to the gym is part of it. I love that. I go to the gym too. Gotta be, but that should be like part of it. Where are you fucking really challenged? Where are you actually getting to the emotions? Because you haven't known how to show up as a man. You have not known how to actually articulate and communicate like a man. You haven't had boundaries in your life. You haven't known how to set boundaries. You haven't known how to deal with the pain that you're in. That's the hard shit. That's the real work. I mean, dude, I did legs today, and I got up and I couldn't barely walk. for like 5 minutes. I was like almost falling down. That was a hard leg day, right? But that's nothing compared to dealing with the emotional shit of a divorce, of dealing with the pain of possible separation. That's not, I'll take leg day every day, 365 over going through what I experienced 6 years ago. I'll take that, or 7 years ago now. I'll take that every fucking day, right? But we have to choose that. We have to choose to become that type of man. And so we use what we call the TSC model. And if you're not familiar with TSC model, I'll just kind of give it to you in a blurb real quick. And I have training on this I can share with you guys. TSC, simple, 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 simple. Time, we give her time. Space, we give her space. Consistently, we give her consistent space and time. Time, space, consistency. We give her time, we give her space, and we do it consistently. The more time we give, the more space we give, the more we do it consistently, the better opportunity we have to save our marriage. Proven over and over, over and over, over and over. Some guys, we see it happen in the first 3 weeks of being in our programs. Other guys, it takes 2 and 3 years. Like, there's no time thing on it. This is why we say you have more time than you realize. One of my clients, he's been working with us for a year and a half. Year and a half. His wife left him for another woman. That's some fucked up shit, right? Not only did she leave him for another person, she left him for someone on the other team. Like she went the opposite side. And she had never been gay up to that point, never whatever. She left him, and they've been completely, separate for over a year, year and a half. And he's been doing the work. He shows up to our group. He shows up to our calls. He shows up to coaching, gets feedback, gets coaching, owns his shit, learns how to communicate, learns how to heal, learns how to lead. He does all that. 2 months ago, she comes back and she says, I broke it off. I've been broken it off with her. I've seen your changes. I want to see if there's a way forward with us. The fuck? Like what? And guess what happens? He doesn't jump at it. Oh my God, my wife wants me back. No, he goes, if we're going to do this, it's going to be on my terms. Guys, a man can go from being a powerless little bitch to an empowered man just like that. By fully taking ownership, by applying the TSC model, time, space, consistency, and giving himself time, giving himself space, and allowing himself to do it consistently. By doing that, he fucking wins. And so now my client is literally like walking through this from a high of like, bro, I don't even need her back. I'm not even sure if I want her back. How many of you would like to be in that position where it's like, you're not the one going like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, but you're just like, okay, we'll see. We'll see if I want to be with you. Because at this point, I don't know. At this point, I've grown here. I don't know where you're at. If you're down here, you got to come up and match my level. Because if you ain't matching my level, well, there's nothing for us. That is a power dynamic shift that most guys will never see because they will never do the work. There's a parable in the Bible that Jesus talks about with the sower of the seeds. And he talks about this idea of like, I sow seeds here, 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 and here. And there's this sower, sowing is a farming term, but a farmer, right? Farmer puts out seed. And he's like, there's all kinds of different ground. There's like this rocky ground. There's like the soft ground. There's this, this sort of sand, if you will. And each of those have different things. Some guys hear it and they don't receive it at all. And basically the cares of the world take it away. Other guys hear it, let it to get in, but they don't really let it get fully rooted. And then as soon as hard shit comes, gone. Oh man, I see that one a lot. Guys are super excited. Oh, empowered, man, I'm gonna be empowered, me and all this stuff. And like, yeah, this is great. And like, as soon as shit gets hard, they're gone. It's like, dude, what happened? Gone. And then there's the final group of guys. And those are the guys that they allow the message, the words, the transformation to occur. And they're like good soil, they're good ground. And I'll pour so much into those guys and they flourish and they become those trees. They become those big bushes. They become those trees of like the birds can hang out on, and they have fruit from those trees other people want to eat from. That is how it fucking works. And even on this call, 15 guys, whatever, 13 of you might be that hard ground, but even if there's 1 or 2 of you that are here to actually receive, I'll give you what I got. TSC model, time, space, consistency. Time, space, consistency. That is exactly what we teach, and that is what we do in our boot camp, a 30-day marriage saver boot camp. And so if you're a guy who's like, man, I want to save my marriage, or you're like, I want to save my marriage, but I don't know if it's possible, then our 30-day boot camp is probably the best place for you to start with us. In this boot camp, we're literally going to give you 30 days of mentorship and coaching. There's weekly calls. There's calls that are recorded. There's assignments that are happening every day, just about, because we have core assignments and then we have bonus modules that go with it. And those assignments are geared towards getting you to a place of helping you communicate with her through all the toxicity, helping you apologize so that she actually hears you, helping you navigate the pain, and really helping you lead again. And the guys who go through that, they usually get clarity. Some guys get in and they're like, man, I want to save my marriage. 3 weeks in, they're like, fuck, no, clearly we're not on the same page. And she doesn't want what I want. And there's other guys that are just afraid to face the fucking truth. I've had guys tell me literally they're afraid to do the work because they know that by them doing the work, their wife, they're going to see the truth that their wife isn't really worth saving. Their marriage isn't worth saving. And I'm like, dude, do you know how stupid that sounds coming out of your mouth? Like literally, like you're so afraid of becoming a better human, a better father, a better leader, a better producer, a better man. You're so whipped, you're so fucking enslaved to a woman that you're afraid to become that because you know you'll probably leave her behind. Like, what does that say about you? What does that say about you as a man? What does that teach your kids? What does that say about your legacy? What does that say? So we teach guys that. I'm gonna drop my link here. It's 30 days, like I was telling you. I'm gonna give you guys that's my personal Facebook Messenger. It's not a bot or anything like that. You reach out to me on there, and I will walk you through the details of the program, how much it costs, all that stuff. We got financing things. For some reason you're financially strapped or whatever. There's ways of getting in. Don't let money stop you from doing what we do. I will say it's probably the most affordable option on the market for the level of coaching that we actually do, and for what you guys get. Our goal is to get as many dudes in this program as possible, to help them start doing the work and really get them to that place of saving their marriage or being able to move on from the healthiest place possible. I mean, what better way to do things, right? Is like coming in and going, I want to save my marriage, and if it's not possible, you at least have skills and tools to become a better human. It's like you're going through all this, and you can either just batten down the hatches and hope the hurricane passes you by and doesn't damage too much, or you can stand out there and be like, no, I'm a fucking man. I'm not gonna just take this storm head on by myself. I've got brothers around me. I've got other dudes around me who are gonna help me and be with me. I love the church groups and I love the pastor thing and I love the counseling thing and therapy thing. All those have their place, but nothing comes close 100% to the work we do and the type of guys we have because of our commitment to your work and who you are. But you got to show up too. You got to come and you got to bring all you've got and be like, dude, I want to be better. So if you are that guy, I want you to click on that link right there that I just put in there. That's my personal messenger. And I just want you to type in the word boot camp. That way I know that's what you're reaching out to me for. And every message I will get to. Sometimes I get 10, sometimes I get 20, whatever. I will get to you and we will have a conversation about what you're looking to do and how we can help you. I'll give you the details of everything. I'll show you the finances, whatever it works, all that stuff. At the end of the day, my goal is to help men lead their families. That is our mission, Empowered Man. It's not just to save families, it is to build families. It is to make men leaders again so that they're no longer those little bitches, so that they're no longer those types of men who aren't really men. So in there, we cover the TSC model. In there, we cover how to apologize to her again without making it about you. The apology letter is one of the biggest things that I've seen guys actually restore relationships because I teach you how to do it from a totally different place than those people. Meaning I teach you how to do it so that she actually feels heard and understood. One of our guys actually went through his wife had like some sort of affair or whatever, and he gave her that apology letter, and it was crazy. She sent him back a picture of herself crying, and they hadn't really communicated, and she was like, "Thank you," and like that was the spark. That wasn't that didn't save the marriage. That opened the door to saving the marriage, and then they were able to start working through the communication stuff. They were able to start doing those things because he had done the communication module and he like worked through those things. So if you're that guy and you're like, dude, this is what I want, then I want you to reach out to me right here. I want you to click on that link. Let's chat. Let's talk about it. Let's get you going. I can get you enrolled today. It's not like you got to wait 6 months to do this. We literally can get you started today. So that's all I've got for you guys. There's my link there. If you, for some reason, need to come back later, click on it now and just type boot camp and say, hey, I can talk to you later or whatever. If you're not able to do it today, that's fine. We'll post the replay as well, and we'll have my link in there too. That's all I got for you guys. I wish you the best. Let's keep leading. See ya.